Welcome everybody to today's event around open educational resources. I'm here as part of the sort of library team at the University of York, and my name's Dave Curtis, along with Ben Catt from the Open Resources team. Hopefully today's going to be, well, not hopefully, but today's going to be a great session. I'm really looking forward to hear what everyone has to say. And I'm now going to hand the session over to Liz, who is our host from the Department of Environment and Geography.
Yeah, so hi everyone. David's asked me to host today. Welcome to the Open Education at York discussion event where we'll be exploring open educational resources at York and beyond. As David said, I'm Liz Hurrell. I'm a senior lecturer in the Environment and Geography department at York and have kind of dabbled in open educational resources, but by no means am I an expert in it. So just for a little bit of context, so we know kind of how we're defining open educational resources. UNESCO defined open educational resources as learning, teaching, and research materials in any format and medium that resides in the public domain or are under copyright that have been released under an open license that permits no cost access, reuse, repurpose, adaptation, and redistribution by others. So that's just to kind of give a bit of context of how we're defining open educational research or how open educational resources are defined. So this open research at York discussion event will present work undertaken in the field of open education resource creation and reuse. And we've got some great guest speakers across various different departments who have developed open educational resources. And this discussion will outline ways in which academic staff have adopted and adapted OERs or open educational resources in different teaching contexts, and will highlight the various challenges and opportunities involved in their use across a broad range of disciplines. So I think we're ready to hand over to our first guest speaker, who is Professor Darren Robinson. Darren is chair in architectural and urban science. Is a chair in architectural and urban sciences at the School of Architecture and Landscape at Sheffield. Darren's research is conducted at the interface between social physics, the people, building physics, building, and urban physics, city, across different scales. So from looking at individual buildings in the urban context to the performance of cities, the performance of buildings and cities on a regional and national scale. And Darren is increasingly interested in how people are using resources, looking towards sort of decarbonisation and sustainable practices in buildings. And Darren has recently published the OER textbook Science and Technology of Low Carbon Design. So I'll hand over to Darren, who's, I think it looks like your slides are sharing. So I'll hand over to you.
Okay, thank you, Liz. So I'll just launch my slideshow. And if I've got time a little bit later, I'll give a demo of the book and a couple of other resources. Okay, so why did I write this book? So it was really to ensure that the MSc students that I teach, so I teach a module called Principles of Building Physics for Sustainable Design as part of an MSc in Sustainable Architectural Studies. So I wanted to make sure that they had a really solid written resource to accompany the lectures that I deliver in the first semester of their studies to reinforce their learning outcomes, and not only based on what I deliver in the lectures, but also supplementary material that I don't have the time to deliver in those lectures. So that was to give my students a good resource for whilst they're conducting their studies, as well as after they've left the University of Sheffield after graduation, so that they've got a resource that they can continue to refer to. And also for students that are wanting to prepare for their arrival at Sheffield, to make sure that they're kind of up to speed with some of the core concepts. I wanted this. So one of the lovely things about having an open educational resource in the form of a book is that it is very easy to add to, so that it can become an organic resource that grows with time. I'll show you later if we have the time. it's super quick to edit and to publish a new edition. Yeah. I had a chat with our faculty librarian. I'm in the Faculty of Social Sciences, although I'm not a social scientist. And yeah, the faculty librarian mentioned that we do have access to a resource called Pressbooks, which enables you to perform online authoring of text. So you could also use LaTeX to author equations. You can upload images, write tables. It's dead easy to use. Like I mentioned, we've got the ability to perform instant updates to the online content. You can build PDFs and EPUBs that can be downloaded from the book's website. And of course, if you really want to, then you can sell copies of electronic copies of your book. That's not something I'm interested in. I wanted this to be an open resource. The other nice thing is that other kind of teachers in other institutions can create clones of your book, and if they want to, they can then adapt it for their own teaching purposes, which I think is a very nice feature. So I'd been director of research in my school for 5 years. At the end of that term, I was given a semester of study leave. And so that was the period of time I had a really good solid block of fairly free time that I could dedicate to writing the first version of my book, which has 10 chapters. It's about 80,000 words, I think. So yeah, I was quite busy between January and July in 2023 when I first authored the book. This is how the online authoring kind of interface looks. So you've got a palette of tools that you can use to define headings, to write standard text, to write LaTeX equations. As I mentioned earlier, you can also upload images fairly straightforwardly. And if you want to do a preview of how that looks, then that's how that appears when you're browsing online or looking at it in PDF form. So yeah, you've got an equation here that's got its own equation number. There are some slight annoyances with Pressbook in the sense that you can't number equations by the chapter number, so they just appear in sequence on a chapter by chapter basis, which is a bit frustrating, but it's not the end of the world. So my book also points to a climate analysis tool that I've developed. So for those of you that are interested, when we're starting a sustainable architectural design project, then one of the first things we want to do is to understand the weather, to understand the kind of the opportunities, but also the threats that are posed by local climate relating to the country and the region and the town or city that we're situated in. And the best way to do that is to analyze climate data. So I developed a tool to perform that sort of exercise. And I wanted to develop my own tool because existing tools were not all that comprehensive, were a bit clunky. And it was also a nice opportunity to learn Python, which is the kind of language of choice of most of my PhD students. So yeah, there's a tool that's now hosted on a server at Sheffield called PyClim that my students also access, and that also points to a GitHub repository that includes all of the source code and all of the kind of functions relating to things like solar geometry or creating something called a psychrometric chart and so on and so forth. Another resource that's also pointed to from my book is a Google site that I developed with one of my former MSc students called the Library of Sound. So one of the subjects that I teach is room acoustics, which is a pretty boring subject matter. It's also a little bit abstract. So one of the things that I try to communicate to students is is the impacts of room size, room surface finish, how that impacts on something that we call reverberation time, and how that in turn impacts on something called speech intelligibility. But it is a bit abstract. So to help make that more real, then we've developed this website, this Google site called the Library of Sound. And so one of the things we've done is to create different recordings of speeches as well as music, and to play those in different spaces, in which we've also both measured and calculated the room reverberation time, so that students have a much more kind of intuitive understanding of the effects of room properties on architectural or room acoustics. And if we have time, then I'll give you a quick demo of that later. Okay, so back to the book itself. I was quite fortunate as I was writing the book on a kind of chapter by chapter, subject by subject basis, to be able to call on a small pool of volunteer reviewers from within my school, but also at my former institution in Nottingham. And I have a good relationship with a colleague in France as well. So they were in the main giving me feedback on a chapter by chapter basis. But my colleagues at Nottingham and La Rochelle reviewed the book in its entirety when it was finished. And my colleague in France also wrote a testimonial of the book. When I was satisfied that the book was pretty much done and dusted, then I test drove it with my first cohort of MSc students in the autumn of 2023, and they gave me some useful feedback to slicken the book as well. The library was an awesome support to me throughout the process of drafting the book, but they also gave me a small amount of funding so that I could recruit 2 graduate teaching assistants. So there was a guy called Sam who helps with proofreading, and he was really super diligent and wanted to make sure that not only the gremlins had been spotted, but also that what was easily understandable by me was similarly easily understandable by somebody that wasn't all that expert in the subject matter. And I had another GTA called Dennis who helped with graphics and copyrights, because there are a number of images in the book that come from third-party sources. So it became really important to formalize the process of tracking the progress of securing copyright transfers, and we developed a copyright tracker. I say we, that's really my colleagues in the library who developed the tracker, and that's now in use by across the institution. Yeah, small warning, don't underestimate how much time is required to make sure that you have secured your copyright permissions, because it can be quite a demanding process. And so that's it. This book has now been available for a couple of years. One of the things that you can do with the Pressbook site is to perform these kinds of analytics. So as of this morning, it's had about 2,100 visitors, getting on for 4,000 page views. We can see month by month that's kind of starting to escalate. We can also see which are the referring platforms, and it's kind of interesting that ChatGPT is the third most significant referrer to the book. So if I can just if I can just quickly show you what it looks like. So that's the kind of the landing page of the book. You can download an EPUB, download an a PDF. If you click on Read Book, then you can interactively navigate through the book. So there are a bunch of different chapters, everything from heat transfer through thermal comfort, solar geometry, daylighting, architectural acoustics, renewable energy technologies, etc., etc. if I navigate to Heat, I can click on Edit, and that's what the the editing interface looks like. So I can just modify modify the title. I can do a preview now, and hopefully you will see, so that's automatically updated, and now everybody that accesses chapter 1 will see that York does indeed rule. This is the the climate analysis app that I mentioned, which is and now enables you to interactively analyze climate data pretty much anywhere on the planet. This is the GitHub repo that's signposted from that. I should probably go to the the about page. So yeah, down here we can see that it links to the GitHub repo. So here, if anybody is really keen, then they can access all of the source code that's used to generate those charts. And this is the library of sound that I mentioned. I'll just play a very short excerpt of one of the speeches. This is part of I Have a Dream speech.
I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made plain.
Okay, so that's a speech that was played in what we call an anechoic chamber, which is basically there are no sound reflections within that chamber. The same the speech was played on a speaker in the entrance to a building which hosts the Department of Geography. So that's a big acoustically reflective space. It's exactly the same recording.
Will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together.
So now we've got entanglement between both direct and reflected sounds that can be a problem for speech intelligibility, and this just helps to communicate that point to students. Okay, I think that's probably it from me. I think I've used up all my time, and I'll hang on for questions a bit later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Darren, and yeah, you're bang on time, so thank you very much. So yeah, I thought something I forgot to say at the start is that we will take questions at the end. Yeah, thank you very much, Darren. So now we move over to Dr. Rebecca Barnes, who's a senior university teacher in the School of Biosciences, also from the University of Sheffield. Dr. Rebecca Barnes' research background is in molecular genetics, but Rebecca's moved over to pedagogical research, focusing on things like student experience, sense of belonging, and is currently working on a project as part of a student voice role, investigating undergraduate student engagement with the courses. Rebecca is interested in evaluating different teaching methods, including published work on a game that Rebecca's designed, and also student perceptions of platform for delivering lab protocols. So Rebecca has recently published Cat Burglars, Yeast Races, and other hypothesis-driven bioscience practicals, also on the Pressbook platform. So I think everything looks ready to go, Rebecca, so I'll hand over to you.
Hello, is that audio good? Yeah, so hi, I'm Rebecca. I've been at the University of Sheffield since 2013, and I started out in molecular biology and biotechnology, and since then we've merged into a School of Biosciences. So we've got about 500 students in each undergraduate cohort now. Yeah, so I'm in a bigger team of teaching staff. So yeah, university teacher in molecular topics. And I've spent a lot of time, which will become relevant, teaching and coordinating level 1 practicals. I'm head of student voice, and also as of this year, I'm leading something we're calling the education cluster. So that is to do with career development and stuff for teaching focused staff and supporting them in their own pedagogical research. And recently, I have edited a an OER textbook. So I thought I'll do it the other way around, and I'll start by showing you the book. So it's called Cat Burglars, Yeast Races and Other Hypothesis-Driven Bioscience Practicals. And well, I hope everyone had a chance to enjoy the cover of the book here, which was drawn by a librarian colleague who helped with this. Yes, so thank you to Oliver for that. Little yeast cells racing, very cute. So the book consists of 8 different resources aimed at academic colleagues at other universities for 8 different biology practicals for level 1 or level 2 students. So yeast races, that's something, maybe your kid's done it in primary school. So you add some yeast and maybe different amounts of sugar into a test tube and it froths up different amounts. So this is a practical I ran at the very start of the degree, just to get them used to a bit of scientific method being in the lab. Cat burglars, this is kind of a forensic genetic fingerprinting thing with a bit of a whimsical theme that a colleague designed. So that's where the name of the book comes from. And then for each practical, there is a little bit of an introduction and the learning objectives, just so you can decide if you want to read further. There are the student-facing materials, which you can then copy and paste into whatever platform you'd like, whatever you use, into your VLE or a PDF or whatever you want. Some technical information so that you can actually, physically do it. So what amounts of stuff you're going to need to provide, the recipes for the different buffers. And then resources for teachers. So that might be, in this case, model answers. So the kind of results you'd expect from the practical. And so there's that times 8. And these first 2 were designed by me, and then the other 6 by colleagues from Sheffield. And so why did I do this? So I'd made these 2 practicals, which I was pleased with, and they were working well. And I designed these to try and introduce a bit more kind of experimental planning and a bit less do this, do that, what we call cookbook style practicals. For the level 1 students. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice if I could share these more widely around the world? It seemed like the kind of ethical thing to do. And at first I thought about writing a journal article, and I've done that before. So I enjoy board games in my spare time. So in order to look at some concepts around protein purification, I designed my own board game a few years ago. Spent a bit of my own money to get cards, to get the graphic design, and introduce that into the curriculum. And so here I've published also some evaluation of the game. So I gave the students a survey in 2 subsequent years at the end of the session. So the game helped me assess my knowledge and understanding of protein purification techniques, etc. So for it to be a peer-reviewed journal article, this is in the Journal of Biological Education, you need this kind of evaluation, which was rewarding, but you can see this is a lot of work to do this. And alongside that, as supplementary material, there are the materials for the game, so other people can download and use the game. So I thought that seems a bit much like hard work. And at the same time, there was a lot of noises at Sheffield, so we were setting up this working group about OERs, various things happening. So I thought that would be a good option instead, and I'm glad I did, because my main goal here was just to get it out into the world. And so I got in touch with Helen, who I see is on the call, who is in the science faculty library team, and she is being very instrumental in this OER story we've got going on at Sheffield. And she did a really good job, with Oliver as well, who drew the cover, but especially Helen, of keeping things on track and helping me along the way. And we started by deciding it was a good idea to make a book, and then had to think about which platform. I'm not sure it mattered tremendously much for this, because it's quite kind of plain. Pressbooks can do fancier things as well, but I didn't need them. But I decided to use Pressbooks. And then I decided to gather material to expand this project out and make a full pamphlet or book. And so the first thing I did was to get in touch with my school leadership, and I kind of told them rather than ask them that I was going to do this, but they didn't tell me no. But that felt like a good place to start. And then I think this whole project was reliant on getting those recipes and shopping lists from the technicians down in the teaching labs. So the second thing I did was to ask them if, they'd be able to provide that. And they said yes. And then I contacted all my academic colleagues who teach in the practicals to see if they had anything that they would like to contribute that they designed. And we have practicals in a range of formats. So we use this online tool called LT, things in Word documents. And anyway, so I got everyone to upload it into a big Google folder. And then I took charge of kind of copying and pasting, getting everything standardized and copying and pasting into Pressbooks. And then we shared out the proofreading. And then Helen did a final look at it. Yeah. And altogether, it took a long time. Like, I'm not saying I was working intensely on this all this time, but it took about 18 months from start to finish. Part of it was at various points, kind of the trail went cold, I think. Like, this was nobody's top priority in their work. Everyone had a lot going on. I had a lot of other things going on. Yes, there was a certain cat herding element to it. All the copying and pasting and making everything perfect and making sure everything's in the right size font all the way through so it looks really beautiful. That is actually quite a lot of, that actually took quite a long time. So even though this was really pre-existing materials, it did take quite a while, but it was definitely worth it. Oh, and I would say there were some places where there were images in the practicals that I decided just to exclude rather than worrying about copyright and things. And people can provide their own images if they decide to use it. Because that would have been also, what did you say, Darren? Demanding process. But I've really enjoyed making this book. I really enjoyed working with the library, with my colleagues. It feels really rewarding to see this thing out in the world, and I hope it's going to be useful. And I hope people actually decide to use some of the practicals in the book. So this was published just before Christmas. And in the first chunk of the book being available, we've had 1,400 views. I've added a little guest book kind of Google form thing. So hopefully if people decide to use the resources in their teaching, they'll tell us about it through that means. Yeah, so I think it was a good, kind of the ethically correct thing to do to get my work out into the world where other people can make use of it. And then hopefully, eventually, someone will use the book, and this will all also be good, selfishly, for my promotion prospects. So that OERs are explicitly in the promotion criteria at Sheffield. So hopefully that'll do me some good eventually in that domain as well. Yeah, I think that's what I have to say about my experience making this book.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. That was really interesting. And I have to say, I wish there was something equivalent in physical geography, because I do know the challenges of coming up with a practical from square one. So yeah, thank you very much for sharing that and keeping to time as well. So now we'll hand over to David Graham, who's academic lead for clinical skills and is a lead for clinical skills and simulation in the Department of Health Sciences here at York. Prior to working at the University of York, David worked in critical care nursing, gaining experience in intensive care nursing, including neuro and cardiac intensive care units. David has an interest in innovative ways of teaching, including high fidelity simulations and use of technology enhanced learning. So I'll hand over to David now, if you're ready.
Yep, thank you.
Yep.
How are we doing on that shared screen?
Yep, that looks good. Thank you.
Perfect. The title of my presentation is OpenStax OERs, a biology module and the VLE. And this is my experience of using somebody else's open educational resources, specifically OpenStax, and integrating that into the VLE. So I run a year one biology module for nursing students. Our nursing students, just for context, have variable biology education prior to come to the course. We could have people who've last studied biology at GCSE all the way through to graduates of biology programs. What we wanted out of the resources, we reviewed the resources a couple of years ago now. We wanted more bio resources. We wanted a platform that had question banks, potentially some links to practice so that would contextualize the biology learning for our nursing students. We wanted stuff that was engaged students in active learning, and we wanted to also include a certain amount of automation to take the workload from colleagues a little bit. OpenStax we found with the help of our librarian, and it turned out that OpenStax was even better than we imagined it could be. So OpenStax is a number of the textbooks that they publish, and I've got some quotes from their website. So it's OpenStax is run by Rice University in Houston, Texas, and they claim themselves to be the world's leading publisher of open educational resources. And here's a few of their quotes. All of their textbooks are peer reviewed. They are reviewed every 2 years. But if there are any errata that are found, that they are updated straight away, and they keep a list of all the errata that's changed in all the textbooks. Their textbooks are considerably more diverse than a lot of the biology textbooks that we were used to using in the health sciences department. And they claim that they've saved millions of pounds for students over the 25 years that they've been running. So this was the textbook we went for, the Anatomy and Physiology 2nd edition, and this is the interface of their website. You can see the outline, the index in the left-hand side there, and there's also instructor and student resources available. Instructor resources, you do have to prove you're an instructor and send through a photograph of your ID badge and a link to your bio page at the university you work at, and then they will give you instructor resources, which are excellent. These are just a list of some of the resources I found quite useful, and on the right hand side of the page there is a link to the college success textbook that they also produce, which helps students with effective study skills at university. So there's the OER Commons Hub, which you can become a member of, and I think we're hoping in the future to upload some of our slides that we've developed from the Anatomy and Physiology textbook onto there, so for others to pass on the open educational resources as we develop more. So there are all these guides available to you. There's a PowerPoint slide deck for every single chapter, which is adoptable and adaptable. Images that you can put into quiz format. The lecture notes are quite useful to be published for students, and they can then use those to build their own notes from. Like I say, the diversity is really important, that a diverse range of population are represented in the images and photographs within the textbook. You can customize the book as much as you like. And then the course cartridge, which I'm going to show you in a minute, means we can plug the books directly into our VLE, into the Blackboard VLE. There's a link with technology partners, and the latest information coming out is a number of audiobooks are now have anatomy and physiology on their platforms, including, I think, is it Audible? So own Spotify, I think. So students who have an account with Spotify have so many hours of access to this. This could be really useful for especially our neurodiverse students in being able to read the textbook, have it read out loud to them. Course cartridge, this is where it was just worked brilliantly, and thanks to Rob Shaw in our library team who helped me do this, because I couldn't do it directly. I don't have the right privileges on Blackboard Ultra to do this. I'm just going to whiz through how the course cartridge gets slotted into our VLE. So you download the course cartridge and it comes in looking like this. This is our Blackboard VLE, some screenshots from there. It includes all the instructor resources, which are all hidden from students as standard as it's uploaded. It has advice for students as to how to get started with the program with using the textbook. It then goes into the reading and each chapter is outlined, and I was going to show you how we used that in our Year 1 biology module in a bit more detail in the slide coming up. And then it has all of the lecture slides available already pre-uploaded that all go into the VLE, and you can use those as much or as little as you like as an instructor. The slides are excellent. I noticed that Lillian Joy is on the call today, who's helped a lot with this and has used some of these images, I believe, in her ongoing work. The images are brilliant. You can take the background out of the images and you don't end up with that white line around the edge, so you can embed them in your slides with a pastel background to support your neurodiverse students. You can zoom in on the images, although they're not scalable vector graphic images, they are of a high enough quality that you can zoom in quite well and still maintain the quality of image. I'm really impressed by the images. This is how we did this, so used it, so each chapter is in there. So this is, for example, chapter 25, the urinary system, and it has each section of the chapter hyperlinked in the VLE. And then what we did was we added text in italics after the hyperlink that guided our students to what we wanted them to read in that chapter, so we could give the student the whole book, but they got to see each section and what we wanted them to prioritize in reading in that section. We also added text to support students who perhaps were struggling and what to focus on and what to prioritize, and students who were really, moving ahead with this and what they might be wanting to do next and look at next. And we added that narrative into the VLE. And it was nice and easy to do. Since adopting this textbook, OpenStax have produced a suite of nursing textbooks, which are all aligned with the NCLEX, which is the American exam to get registration as a nurse over in the States. And they had the one summit, which is the Open Nursing Education Summit back in February last year. And these textbooks are really very good as well. So what next? This is a statement from OpenStax. I wonder whether typical publishing houses may be challenged by this. I don't see that as a bad thing. I think this is really exciting. OpenStax, all their texts are available online, but they also do print copies as well at an affordable cost. It's they don't make loads of profit on it. It's basically the printing cost. And then I'll just say, we've done that. And our student feedback has been overwhelmingly positive so far. And they seem to like the online resources, as well as links to slightly more accessible, so perhaps easier level study as well. I think I will stop there.
Thank you very much, David. That's really, really interesting, and looks like it's really easy to integrate into the VLE, which is amazing. So yeah, thank you very much for sharing that. And again, keeping to time, you've all been very excellent. I think this is the easiest session I've ever had to chair because you've all kept to time beautifully. So I'll hand over to our next and final speaker, Carmen Alvarez Mayo, who is a lecturer in Spanish in our Department of Language and Linguistic Sciences here at York. Carmen is a linguist and a highly qualified and experienced Spanish teacher who has taught a great variety of courses from complete beginners to advanced level. Carmen is a qualified teacher of both Spanish and English as a foreign language with over 20 years of teaching experience. And during the years of 2013 and 2014, Carmen designed, developed and coordinated Tango, which stands for the Themed Autonomous Navigation Global Opus, which is a long-distance collaborative e-learning project. So I'll hand it over to Carmen if you're ready. Oh, you just need to unmute, Carmen.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna share this. I'm sharing it now. Oh, sorry, I went back to that. I changed my screen. Sorry, because I cannot see. Let me see if I can manage to do this now. So perhaps you can help me, because you are sharing. You cannot see my sharing screen, can you? Okay.
Yeah, we could see it. Yeah, we could see
you
it
could see it. So
Yeah,
it was
sorry.
just me. Sorry. Okay, so now I want to put this here. Okay, I managed to do that. Thank you.
No worries.
So I'm going to talk about various things I've done and how I started producing OERs. So, and also, if you have my presentation, you can follow all the hyperlinks because there's a lot of information. So I won't be able to go through everything, but because so if you use this link, you can see my CIMAR portfolio. And I just added this little essay here because the reason I started producing online resources, it was after I finished an HNC in multimedia in 2002. I did that, and there's a little essay there that, well, it kind of deals with how things were then. So it would be interesting to see how much it has changed everything, because well, we're talking over 20 years later. So I'm going to start. This is one of the first sites I made. And actually, I forgot one thing, because I added this little thing, necessity is the mother of invention, because in my case, the reason I started producing learning resources is because sometimes I wanted to talk about a certain topic, or to work further, practice further, or give my students some homework. And it took ages to find resources. So I thought, well, I might as well make it myself because I can. So we were used to, as teachers, we were used to producing materials in, with a computer, using Word. But once I finished this course, I was able to use MTL code. Or, I even cannot remember exactly what it's called. But I used to be able to use that and make little websites and little resources. And at the time, there was this really good source, Hot Potatoes, which is Canadian. I think it's the University of, I don't know, I can't remember. Is it British Columbia? I don't know. It's some university in Canada that they produce this, and everybody around the world could use this little, they had like different, what can I call it? Formats of exercises that you could use. And the advantage of being able to use HTML is that because sometimes there were little issues, little things that didn't quite go right with it, you could just check the code to make sure that everything was open and closed as it should, and avoid those issues. So I am very creative. I like taking pictures. I like painting. I like writing. I love that sort of thing. And so one thing that is very important when you are learning something, obviously, if you can, you know, what I teach, it can be more student-centered. I guess, you know, students can identify with these sorts of things. For example, this is an exercise for beginners, and I talk about my family. So I ask students to talk about their families. And when what we're doing is meaningful, it's easier to remember things and easier to recall information, like, you know, in the future as well. Like, you know, things that are meaningful, or the same as things that are fun, for example. No, when people laugh, when there is a story about something, you can go back to that story to remember something. Let me see. So you can see this is one of those that you select one of the words. And some of them are in capitals because they go after a stop, or because it's a proper noun, and so students can use that. I also recorded this, but because this site was in publishing GeoCities, and then GeoCities disappeared. I don't know if you heard of GeoCities. It was a free website that if you had a Yahoo account, you can make websites. But this was 2004, so again, over 20 years. When this disappeared, there was something, GeoCities WS or something, that rescued some of these sites, and I was lucky for this to be rescued. But some of the things that you could do, like, you know, you could listen to these texts, they disappear. I'm not sure this would. Oh, no.
Oh, we meant to hear something, Carmen, because I can't
Yes.
hear anything. Well, I can't hear anything.
Yes.
Don't know if anybody else
Okay,
can.
yes, I'm gonna go back if I can, because I think I messed this up. Okay. Okay. I've got so many things here. Okay. Okay, so that was just the second part of the exercise that you could hear there, just in case. So that was hot potato. So regarding tango, okay, so when I thought about this sort of thing didn't even have a name. Now apparently it's called coil. I'm not really good at these things that stand, you know, but coil, communicative, online, something about language learning. So I thought about this in 2011, and I managed to get some funding and write the materials in 2013. One thing that was very important for this, because the idea was to have students in York learning with students in Spain. I had colleagues at the University of Oviedo, where I did my degree and my PGC and part of my PhD. And we organize some practice every week with students learning English and with students learning Spanish. And the colleagues from the VLE team, and apologies because the name I think is different now, here in York, they helped me devise all these guidelines, because the guidelines were very important to make sure that the students were working in partnership and they respect each other and things run smoothly. So you can see that there are quite a few. So I wrote some activities in English and some in Spanish, following the same topics. But the cultural aspects are very different because, well, you know, British culture or English culture and Spanish culture, I mean, well, they are very different. And then I also Okay.
Carmen, can I just check? We can
Yes.
still only see the audio screen. Is
All
that what we're supposed to be
right.
seeing? Sorry.
Okay, so I tell you what, one thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna share with you the Padlet, and then everybody has it, and then you can also click on the things, on the links as you wish. Or if you like, maybe you may be able to follow me as well. So that's the Padlet. Okay. And apologies for that, I wasn't aware of that. Yes, and the idea also about doing this, because obviously I started using it here in York, and they started using it for learning English in Oviedo in Spain. But this is available to everybody to use. One of the reasons I decided to do this is because nowadays, with all the resources, all the technology we have available, this was a timely thing to do. I remember as a student learning English, I remember when I studied at the University of Leeds 30 years ago, that I used to meet the students to practice English, and they wanted to practice Spanish. But what happened very often is that we always talk about the same things, or then we ended up just talking about something completely random. So to make sure that the students had something to do, and also to make sure that those topics that they talk about were somehow related with the course they were doing, that was important. I love hyperlinks. If you look at anything I do, I love hyperlinks because they take you to, you start with a story, but then that story takes you to different paths. And that's part of the fun, I think, that things are not closed, but are open. And so students can talk about the things that are closer to them, the things that interests them more. So while they are having fun, again, the learning is more meaningful, and it will be easier to be remembered. I'm gonna continue because I can see that I've been talking about this for a while. Something else that I used, and Gillian is here. We organized together a Padlet session a few years ago, and I've been using Padlet since 2015 for 10 years now, because I discovered that in Ocomcent 15, when it was celebrated in Nottingham, there was a session, a colleague that shared this tool. And I thought I could try it. And then I realized a few months later that the university had bought a license. So I started using the university tool, because you can do more things than with the free. Because one thing I forgot to say is that everything I do and I've been doing, it's using free tools. Sometimes you have the option of paying and getting more, but often with the free resource, you can do a lot already. So that's really good. As you can see, I'm using Padlet here because you can use it in many different ways. There are some examples there of things that I've done with Padlet that you could have a look in later, because otherwise I won't be able to talk about everything I want to mention. And so another thing that I've been using is Kahoot. And you can see this is one Kahoot I made a while ago that it has got quite a few plays.
Carmen, again, we can't see the Kahoot.
It's there. You can see that image there. That's the Kahoot, yeah?
No, we can.
Que sabes de España.
No, we can't see that.
Are you not seeing the Padlet slides?
No. So we're still stuck on the audio, but we got that you put the link to the Padlet slides, so we can see those
All
through the link.
Okay, so what happened? I did something. What did I do?
I can share the Padlet slides if that would help.
Okay, I'm gonna I'm gonna stop and start again and see if that works. Okay, is this working now?
Yeah, we can see the Padlet slides now.
I don't know, that looks rather small. If I press here, can you see it?
Yes.
The slideshow, can you
Yeah,
see the slideshow?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can see this one. I'm gonna close the other one. So I'm gonna go, I was here, about Padlet. And can you see this bit? Sorry, apologies. Can you see it now?
Yes,
It's a
yeah, we
little
can.
a little screenshot. And if you click there, you can play it. You can play the Kahoot if you like. Yes. And that's something I've been doing myself, and I also got my students making their own Kahoots. For example, when we were talking about different speaking Spanish regions, countries, so I got them to read about them and to watch videos and to prepare their own Kahoots. Giving them an example of what they could do, giving them some guidance, and while they are creating something, again, that strengthens their learning. It's fun, because when we play the Kahoots, we're all having fun. Google Slides. Okay, with the Google Suite, using all the Google Suite that we get here in York with our university email, there are many things you can do. I love Google Slides. I mean, I love all of it. Because one of the reasons I love all of this is because when you use Google Slides, it's a bit like using a website. So you can share the link for your presentation. Say you are going to, I don't know, a conference or something. You can send them the link 1 week before, but you can make updates to the presentation, and you don't need to send it again. It's like working with a website. As long as people have the link and they press on the link, they access the latest version. And the same thing happens with Google Forms. And the same thing happens with, for example, Google Docs as well, because that's another thing that I've been using a lot. I didn't mention it here, but instead of using writing on the board, I usually create a Google Doc that I share with my class, and then I can write there, and then my students can write there. And it's like the class notes that we all have, and we have the survey version, and sometimes I add more examples, or I add hyperlinks, or I add homework, and also students can share queries as well. So it's very handy. Another free resource, again, free resource, because you can use the free version, but they always ask you if you want, because the same thing happens with Padlet unless you have like an account with your university or through your university. This is another resource that it is a bit like that hot potatoes theme, but a lot more modern. So it's also very easy to use because you don't need any coding knowledge or anything. It's very good. And this Merlot is one of those sites where people who create open resources, open learning resources, can use to share them. And I came across this by chance many years ago, and so some of the things I made are there, but not all. And actually, I need to update my details. I realized that morning. Again, here the conversation, probably you know about this, but this is a really good way to publish articles and share them with everyone across the world. I wrote an article in my case because my main job is teaching. I don't really have that much research or time to do creative things or more research things, that sort of thing. So I have an article in mind. I've been having it for about 5 years, but I'm not having the time. I wrote this one in English I think it was 2018, and then a year later I adapted it translated it kind of thing into Spanish, and it was published into the Conversation of Spain. So if any of you write or use different languages, if you go to the Conversation, you can see that there are different sites across the world. And sorry, I'm gonna go back because I realized there was something I forgot to mention. I can't remember what it was. I'll put it here. Okay, well, it will be there. I'll share it with you later. And that's my email in case you have any questions, any suggestions. And I'm gonna stop sharing this. I also wanted to say that regarding InnoConf, the innovative language learning conference or something like that, I was in the editorial team, and we used to have a publication every year with with a selection of the papers that were presented at the conference. And we used to work with an open research publication, researchpublishing.net. But sadly, they retired a couple of years ago, and this publishing stopped. I share with you the link because there are lots of different books publishing with this publishing company that you may find of interest. And I think that's all from me now. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. What a wealth of material you've got all in the Padlet. So thank you very much for sharing your Padlet, and it'd be great to spend a bit of time clicking through some of those links. So I just want to say thank you to all of our speakers today for some really interesting uses of open educational resources and useful examples of open educational resources. And now we've got time for some questions. So I guess if you want to put any questions in the chat box, or if you want to speak to your question, then just pop up your hand and we can take some questions for the next 25 minutes or so. So I've got a few questions, so I'll kick off. I guess this one was for Rebecca, actually. You mentioned about having, I think it was 1,400 views of your practical classes already. I wondered did you publicize the fact that you'd published this book? And if so, how did you do it? And what has been the response to it?
So we've got a gang of authors here, right? So there's, I don't know, a dozen people listed on the book. I think it's been mainly through social media. Helen's uploaded it to various repositories and stuff. Helen, are you there? What other publicity? Various university newsletters. I've put her on the spot here. Hello.
I am here. We uploaded it to the Open Textbook Library, and I think that's been quite beneficial. We were hoping to upload it to the National Teaching Repository as well, but when I looked into that, I think that is ceasing. I don't think it's being supported anymore, which is a big shame, and I think it leaves a void really in the UK, but I will look at that again.
Yeah, so not massive amounts of publicity, but people were sharing it on their LinkedIns and things like that.
Yeah. Okay. So it's still.
I've got it in my email signature, so maybe someone gets an email from me and clicks on it. That kind of thing.
Okay, and I guess the same question goes for Darren. Is it similar kind of publicity for your book as well? Because again, you got quite a lot of hits as well. So I was just wondering how people were finding these books.
So mine, I haven't really done any overt kind of publicity of the book. It's been through a few. So I've shared the link with a few fora. It's available in the Pressbooks directory. Yeah, I think through a lot of people are just doing Google searches and using the Gen AI tools to access it.
Great, because when you go through all this effort to write some books, you want people to go and find it and read it. Well, I think we've had a few questions come through, and I've completely lost the order of the chat. So I think there's a question from David. What do you think are the main obstacles to the adoption of OERs more widely across the HE community? So I don't know if anybody wants to start that discussion. Darren, you're nodding, so I'm going to go with you, put you on the spot, Darren.
So I mean, I can really only speak for myself. So I kind of solo authored the Pressbooks book, and that did take a big chunk of time. And so, you know, we're all under increasing time pressure. And so I think, you know, for this kind of initiative to really take off, there needs to be some dedicated allocation of workload to be able to really commit a sustained period of time to produce one of these outputs. And it's just tricky, isn't it?
Yeah, David, Rebecca, do you want to come in?
Yeah, I think we're all getting increasingly broke, which can only help with the adoption of OERs. So we've got a new level 1 curriculum coming in September, and yeah, we had the choice between a £12,000, you know, published textbook. I'm trying to find the word to say, yeah, not an OER textbook, or an OER. And I think, yeah, we're starting to think, I think, more about those kind of numbers of using, you know, big textbook. David, did you have something to say? Sorry, I cut in a bit.
Which David?
I don't know, Liz was trying to...
Yeah, I was going for you, David. Graham, to see if you had any thoughts on what do you think are the main obstacles to the adoption of OERs more widely across the HE community? Because obviously you've adopted an OER very effectively. Do you have any thoughts on the obstacles?
Yeah, I guess I'd sum it up with two things. One is what's the catch? I think when I started to investigate OpenStax in more depth, it was almost too good to be true. You were kind of looking at it going, what's the catch here? Am I signing up for something that, you know, end up with loads of spam or that kind of thing? I also think it probably sits outside the normal of our peer review kind of processes and things. And I guess to the two authors of an OER textbook, people mindset may be, why would you do that? Why would you produce a free textbook for other people to use and not try and monetize it? Or, you know, there's got to be a catch here, but I don't think there is. It's all good. I'm going to ask Rebecca and Darren to comment on, you know, I think it's great that people do it, but what people think about you doing a free textbook when you could have monetized it.
Okay, I'd like to say something. Yeah, I think that the main obstacle is knowing about it. Because obviously, as David was pointing out, people are used to working with different, you know, with paid, you know, things that you pay for them. And then you've got the habit of doing that, and also the fact that it's probably happening now that people are valuing open educational resources as they should have probably earlier on. But it's a little bit, I guess that years ago, probably I could call it snobbish, you know, because this is free, or, you know, this is not the mainstream, and we had that. And so, like always, the main thing is education. Education as in knowing what these things are, knowing what you can do with them. And one thing that our team does here very well is that you can ask them, BLA team, and they can tell you which resources would be the best for any project you have. And all of us, we have same kind of, you know, similar teams in our universities. So that's one way of discovering things, as well as, for example, this session. This is all very useful, is to discover these resources. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Carmen. Yeah, I guess going back to David's question to Darren and Rebecca, what what did people think? What were people's views on you publishing a book for free? Where did you get any comments on that?
I didn't really solicit much kind of feedback about the kind of mode of dissemination. I just decided from the outset that it was going to be an openly accessible resource. That was a kind of deliberate decision that I made. In terms of whether there's a catch, I'm not sure there really is one. I mean, the university pays a subscription to the Pressbooks platform, so there is a kind of a money angle, if you like, or a cost associated with it, and there's a time cost in terms of learning how to use the Pressbooks platform, but that's really marginal. It's so easy to use, actually. Yeah, so I don't really think there is a big catch. And I'm not destined to become rich. I'm quite happy to give my resources away, and I've been doing that as a researcher for many years.
Yeah, I think it's a lower barrier to entry. You can just kind of get on and do it. I think that's a huge, yeah, you just do it, and you can be more nimble. Yeah, just kind of get on with it. I think that's a big selling point. I think Helen and others at Sheffield are really doing a good job of moving this forward and selling the benefits of it. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay,
yeah. Everyone's been enthusiastic.
Yeah, that sounds very positive, and yeah, something that we need to definitely kind of knuckle down and think a bit more at York. So I've got a question for David from Helen. I'm really interested in OpenStax adoption. Are you aware of any other examples of this, either at York or beyond? So this is for David Graham.
I mean, I've been to quite a few of their webinars. They're worth signing up for, and they give you examples from across the States and other countries of them being put into place. But I'm going to see if Lillian Joy has got anything to say on that, because I know that Lillian's been involved in using OpenStax with other colleagues in the university. I will add, linked to the last question, that the nursing textbooks, I'm struggling to get colleagues to kind of engage in those, and I think they're a potential real benefit in terms of selling our program. If we've got books, we're using books that align with perhaps in this, people in the States, and if people want to be a bit more mobile around the world with their professional qualifications. But I guess they've already all written their module resources with traditional textbooks, and changing is tough, isn't it, until you get to the end of. But yeah, I've just wondered if Lillian knows anybody else in the university.
Not other people. We've really, this is the question. We've really struggled to get people to adopt free stuff. This is amazing, right? This is weird. But what I've done as a unit together with Alice is whenever tutors need a high quality image, we've gone to the OpenStax textbooks to look for them. They're often very well described as well. So for anyone who has to do accessibility work and describe images, it's all done for you. So why wouldn't you use the images in there? And because we sometimes need very high quality images in order to create suitable graphics for tactile means for our visually impaired students, this is a really good source. So sometimes it's beyond the textbook requirement. It's even beyond the general student requirement. It works really well for very specific cases as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. And what I really like about the OERs that have been shown today is that it's so interactive, and you can click on so many different links, and you can hear stuff, and it's just so much more interactive than just like a standalone textbook. So yeah, it's interesting that adoption might be quite low. So that's something to think about and dwell on a little bit more. So Lillian's got a question to all presenters. I might start with Carmen, because I think given how many resources you showed us, Carmen, is thinking about how you started your OER journey, and why do you think others are not on that journey?
Okay, well, I guess that there are many factors. Not everybody is creative to start with. And then I guess one of the most important ones is time. because our workloads are very big and we don't have lots of time. Well, we hardly have any time to discover new things, to experiment a bit, because you need to spend some time working with these free learning resources to familiarize yourself with them, to see how you can exploit them with your students, and that takes a lot of time. Well, we have very little time. And I think that's probably one of the main reasons. And not everybody likes doing new things as well, as somebody pointed out earlier on. So those are a few things I can realize now, I can share with you now, but I'm sure some other colleagues here can say other things. Thank you.
Yeah, so does any of the other speakers want to come in about why you think other people are not on the OER journey?
So yeah, the issue of kind of cost and going down the traditional route was mentioned earlier. So I did publish a book called Computer Modeling for Sustainable Urban Design about 12 years ago. And my contract with the publisher gave me 5% of royalties for the first 1,000 copies, and then it went to 10% after the first 1,000 had been sold. But the winner is the publisher, right? I mean, so they're the ones that are taking the 90%. So, realistically, unless you've got a book that's flying off the shelves and it's on the bestseller list, you're probably not going to be making a huge amount of money. So I think the revenue is, relatively speaking, marginal. For me, the benefit of open accessibility massively outweighs the kind of marginal advantage of getting a little bit of income from selling a book. But yeah, I mean, it still seems to be this kind of the standard way to go through a known publisher that does their own marketing, that does handle the peer review process, both of the proposal and, depending on the publisher, also the book. And I think David mentioned earlier the challenge of peer review. That's very much a bottom-up initiative that you need to manage yourself as an author with an OER. And it is important that that process is systematized, so that you can satisfy yourself that that no silly mistakes or misconceptions have been published. But because you're making this kind of instantly and openly accessible, you're kind of you're pretty well motivated to make sure that you're that you're bringing this kind of rigor to the review process, right?
Yeah, and I guess if it's being peer reviewed, then hopefully your colleagues who are peer reviewing will think, oh, I will actually be able to use this for free as well. So I guess there's a bit of an incentive for them too, maybe.
True.
Did David and Rebecca, did you want to come in on the question around sort of why do you think others are not on the journey? Thinking about your own journey to OERs?
Yeah, so in terms of making resources, so with an OER, you don't have to do a whole textbook. You can do smaller chunks of things, and which a publisher wouldn't be interested in. So I think there's a lot more you can do. Yes, that would be something I would say. But people are just tired, aren't they? They're just busy and tired, and that's the main barrier to all sorts of creativity.
Just to jump onto Rebecca's remark, I mean, so another nice thing is that you can do it bit by bit. So you could start off with one chapter and then you can publish another.
Yeah.
And you can have this kind of resource grow organically as you have the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And some of these resources we're already kind of creating anyway as part of our teaching. So if we can then utilize them in another and a different way, probably not such a big effort to convert some of the teaching materials that I've done into an OER than starting writing from scratch, perhaps, maybe. David, do you want to mention anything around utilization of OERs?
No, I was going to ask, are we partway through? Do other people think we're partway through a revolution almost in the way that publishing is? The power of the big publishing houses is perhaps being challenged by people like OpenStax and I guess they're worried as well, but are we peri revolution, and is that part of the reason? Yeah, what's the future of publishing? Interesting. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, this might be where we head.
The
Right, well,
barricades.
Yeah. I mean, if it's happening now, if this is happening, this is the present. So the future, it's a continuation of the present. So we are evolving. The issue with publishing in open access is, again, that most of us are working for free, are doing extra hours for free because we are in editorial groups and we are doing work for free. And, I mean, and when I say free in many different ways, because in my case, I don't see it in any way, But, I need to have a look at these promotion things and see if I apply for a promotion. Because I've been working here for 20 years and I'm a poor old lecturer still. Yes.
yeah, I think what I quite liked about Darren and Rebecca's publications, that you can get those metrics of how many people are using them and how people are engaging with them, which can really help with showing the impact of the materials that you're creating. And I think that's really good for promotions. So yeah, I think that's getting those metrics can make a bit of a difference, I think, with some of these resources. Okay, we've got another question from Sarah. Creating resources is a big commitment. We've all talked about time, but obviously keeping it up to date is even more challenging. Have you got any plans around this with any of your materials that you are using? I don't know anybody who wants to come in on that one.
So I guess I could come in. So I already have started drafting a skeleton of an additional chapter. I used a color coding in my book. So black is standard text, blue is more quantitative, and red is advanced. And so there are some advanced subjects that are already in the book, but I plan on adding more. So the advanced is really kind of focused on very quantitative science and engineering students, PhD students. Yeah. So I have plans. It's just about kind of dedicating the time to do it. But again, because you can, publish updates piecemeal, you can do it, in bite-sized chunks, potentially, depending on demand.
I do
Rebecca?
think it's, yeah, we've been talking about this in our working group, I remember, making it clear, this is a thing. It was, in July 2025, I'm walking away from it. This is, in aspic, or, to make it clear that it's being updated and trying to be kept up to date. Because there will be things that age, not especially in my book, I don't think, because it's, a lot of first year stuff. Yeah, but if you make it clear either what, that you are doing updates or that you're not doing updates, that'll go a long way, won't it?
Yeah, and I guess in a way, OERs are probably a bit easier to update than a textbook because you can just,
Can do it very easily if you want to.
Yeah, like Darren says, you can do it in bite-sized chunks. Carmen, did you have any views on kind of keeping your materials up to date?
Yes, about that one. I guess that the important thing is to engage with them. Because, for example, I realized this morning that I've got some links, I've got some videos that are not working in my Tango website. Yes, people make updates in the hyperlinks and then they stop working. So it's just getting every so often, have a look at your things and make sure that they work as they should. Sometimes you just need to update things, to update, I mean, in the case I was looking at a section about music, and that's another thing that maybe, if that video doesn't work, maybe that helps me update and choose a song that maybe it's a bit more modern or it's a bit more relevant now because of I don't know, any reason, because modern and relevant are two different concepts. And that helps people helping keep people engaged with the materials. Yeah, sometimes it's good to update them. Thank you.
Yeah, keeping up hyperlinks up to date is is a nightmare. And David, Graham, I don't know if you had any thoughts on. I don't know whether you know how your textbook that you are using is updated, and whether that's had any impact on like the resources being fed into the VLE or anything like that. Have you come across any problems with that?
Not so far, but I know that OpenStax have a very open errata procedure and have a little database on every book of every change that's ever been made. When changes get a little bit too much, they then move on to another edition.
Okay.
But anything that's on there, they're very, very open about what they've changed, when they've changed it, that kind of thing.
That's really good. And do you get like an alert to say it's changed, or do you know?
No, there's just on the web page for the book. There's the errata section, which is on the front page of the book, and you can click into that and see when things are changed. And that is useful for accessibility because it's best to view the book live, but you can, as Darren and Rebecca mentioned, you can download it as a PDF. So if people have got poor internet at home, they can download it on campus and carry it with them wherever they want to be. But they can then check back periodically to make sure that any changes are pulled through.
Excellent. That sounds really good. And it sounds, yeah, like really transparent and clear, which is what you want, again, when you're using a resource. So I think we're nearly coming to the end. I think I've picked up all the questions. I apologize if someone's snuck in a question between sort of the comments and the chat and I've missed them. I don't know if David, Curtis, or Ben can pick up anything that I might have missed. But there's been some really useful chat in there. David, did I miss anything?
I think you managed to pick up everything off there as far as I can see.
Excellent. So,
sorry, Liz, I just add one thing, because also, as well as hyperlinks, factual information. Because, for example, when I'm thinking about quizzes, if I'm asking about, a question about some factual information, like, how many UNESCO sites has Spain or something like that, or in Europe or in the world, I think I've got a question, which is the country with the most UNESCO sites or something like that. Those things change because that's the way it happens. Every year there are more countries that they submit applications to get a new site recognized or something recognized, or if we think about, so anything that is factual, it needs to be kept in mind and it needs to be reviewed at every so often. I would say every year, every 2 years, depending on how serious that information is. Obviously, some things they are not that relevant. It's not a matter of life and death, but it's important for information to be accurate. Just that. So thank you.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to be one of the challenges with OERs, which are linking out to other things, is ensuring that everything's accurate and up to date. And yeah, that could be time consuming and challenging depending on how many hyperlinks there are. So yeah, we are at 1:30 now. So I just want to say thank you again to our speakers for giving their time. A really, really interesting and thought-provoking discussion. So thank you very much. I don't know if David or Ben want to round off the session. I don't know if you want to introduce what the next session will be on or anything like that.
I might hand that over to Ben if he knows if there's another one coming up shortly.
There isn't no plans, but I'm sure that yeah, starting in the new academic year, we'll get some more open research at York sessions lined up. And yeah, thank you for all our speakers today. Really interesting session.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation and thank you for the feedback and the questions.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Thank you, everyone, and yeah, watch this space, I guess, for the next session in the new academic year. So yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Bye.
Bye.